世界嘅香港，大家好。今日咧，我好開心咧，就同 Lily Tang Williams 喺個節目度咧可以互動啦，講下美國精神啦，講下佢喺天安門嘅時候咧，佢嘅經歷，咁同埋佢喺美國佢依家咧將會係 contest for being a congressman for the state of New Hampshire， 咁一個1.幾 million 百零萬嘅一個州細州啦嘅州份啦，咁佢本身咧就喺內地出身啦，過咗嚟移民啦，咁就喺香港咧喺97回歸之前咧就做過2年嘢，咁就都識少少廣東話，咁但係就我哋今日咧最主要咧係會用英文做，咁由於呢個係個 live 嘅節目啦，我都希望大家可以支持下我哋，留多啲言，咁就等我哋知道你點樣有啲咩想法，因為咧我喺依家喺北美洲同埋喺歐洲咧，未來呢半年咧我都會係走好多好遠嘅路，最主要就係講翻香港人想聽嘅資訊。Lily, I just made a very brief introduction of you that you left China like after Tiananmen, and you are now a U.S. citizen, and you are contesting to be a member of Congress representing the state of New Hampshire. And for those who are watching this program, Action World and Action Life, on a global basis, I guess it's important to let people know about the U.S. election of things, how many congressional seats are up for to be contested, and also what is the House of Representatives, what is the Senate, like the basic ABCs first, before we go into your personal history during the Cultural Revolution, your family, and why you came to America and why you run for Congress. So welcome.
Thank you, Edward, for having me. And so I am running in New Hampshire Congressional District 2. We are a small state with 1.3 million people. So that we only have 2 congressional districts. So we only have 2 seats. And where I live, it's a CD2. So the U.S. government, according to the Constitution, it's actually a constitutional republic. The people like to use democracy a lot, which is majority rule. But the constitutional republic means the voters choose their representative to go to federal government and to represent them. U.S. is probably one of the largest representative government in the world. And actually, New Hampshire is probably one of the largest also in the world in our own state. There are like 400 state representatives. I think the U.S. Congress in the House of Representatives has 436 representatives from all over the country. Then 100 U.S. senators, which is 2 senators from each state. Now, it doesn't matter how small your state is. Every state gets 2 U.S. senators. So that's
you want to be a senator. You want to be a senator.
Right? I'm running for the state of. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, which is every 2 years there is an election. For U.S. senators, which is 2 from each state, that one is every 6 years. So one term is 6 years for U.S. senator. But for House,
so you're running the House of Representatives. Okay, just want to make sure. Out of the 460 something, you want to be one of them.
So to explain to you how they got that number is normally for 100,000 citizens, then there is 1 seat for your district, for your state. So that's why you saw, California people are moving out. So they actually lost 1 seat, and Texas gained 1 seat. So it goes with the population numbers.
好啦，咁即個 House of Representatives， 即係等於 I think it's like the lower house in the UK, similar.
Right.
Yeah. You like if the state has more people, they got more seats. As you alluded to earlier, the state of Texas gained 1 seat from California, right?
Yeah, because the people flee California. I call California PRC.
Well, it's a high cost of living. Put it this way.
It's more than high cost living. Their government is very tyrannical. They have lots of mandates. And during the pandemic, there's so many mandates, shutdowns, lockdowns. Now they have vaccine mandates for the school children, and they're teaching the lefty agendas in public schools. And plus the high cost of living and doing business. So people are living. It's like you cannot even get a Johan truck, affordable rate to get out of California.
Right. Now go back to the state of New Hampshire. It's a small state with 1.6 billion people. So how many? 1.3. How many seats are there for the House of Representatives for your state, which is New Hampshire?
There are two House of Representative seats and 2 U.S. Senator seats. So I'm running one of the like a House of Representative seat, which is called a 2nd Congressional District here.
2nd Congressional District. Okay.
Yes.
And the incumbent right now, the two seats in the House of Representatives, are they Republican or are they Democrats?
Right now, unfortunately, we have all 4 seats are occupied by Democrat Party. And my opponent in my district, she has been our congresswoman here for past 10 years. And this year, that because of President Joe Biden's rating is very low, and people are upset with their policies, Democrat Party leadership in DC's policies. So there are, I think people expect there should be a red wave in 2022. That means Republicans will gain seats in the U.S. Congress.
You represent the Republican Party now, but you were a libertarian before, right? Many years ago when I first met you.
Yes, I was 2016. I ran as a Libertarian Party nominee for U.S. Senate, but as a third party, I learned that you could not get into debates, and you could not even get on ballot sometimes. Just not effective strategy. And I was always a Republican member, but because 2008, I feel like the party left me. And so I joined the Libertarian Party. And then I switched back, I think 2019. So, there are multiple parties, and some states you cannot even register third parties. But you can switch, and if your style allows you, like in our state, New Hampshire, you can only register Republican Party, Democrat Party, or undeclared. That means independent. That's the 3 ones you can register.
Okay, so back in 2016, right, when you said you run for Senate, you are also running for the lower house at that time, the House of Representatives.
Senate is the higher chamber. U.S. Senate. I was nominee for the Libertarian Party.
For the upper house, so to speak, right?
Yeah, upper house. Yeah, so I have the experience to run a federal seat, and get into interviews, and I got into 1 debate, but most time the 2 parties and keep me out of debate. So our Republican Party in New Hampshire is quite good. I feel like there are lots of people like me inside the Republican Party in New Hampshire, and we are a red state. So we have Republican Party right now controls the state and House and state Senate and the governor's seat.
Okay. Now, while you have your sip of coffee, let's switch to more things that it's of common interest to our radio listeners. I shouldn't say video, but interactive media listeners at Action World and Action Life. I'm using both channels, the Cantonese channel and also the English/Cantonese channel. So we are simulcasting in both, plus my Facebook page. So to get the maximum exposure. Now, You left China after the Tiananmen crackdown in
It was
19,
actually 1988, 1 year before Tiananmen.
1 year before.
Yes.
Yeah. How was it? Like? I guess you were brought up in China. Did you attend any or join any 小仙队, right? Like the little 小仙队, right?
Oh yes, that's Young Pioneers. Yeah,
Young Pioneers. Did you join?
red scarf girl.
Yeah.
Yes. I was born in Chengdu, Sichuan province, just before the Cultural Revolution. Yes, and so of course I was born into poverty. My parents were just regular workers, and my dad is illiterate. My mom only got elementary school education. So we lived in this community housing gave to my dad from his state factory. So I went to school basically from 7 to 12 under Mao during the Cultural Revolution. So I was a part of the red class. If you know about Cultural Revolution, that people were divided into 10 classes, 5 red and 5 black. Yeah. So I was a worker's daughter, so I was a red child, and I was desperate to wear that red scarf to be the best, young pioneer and class monitor. And until I think all the way until I was 17, I passed the National College Entrance Exam. I went to Shanghai and Fudan University to study law because I
Fudan
really
is a very good university. Fudan is very famous.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a reason I wanted to get out of my home province because we were very isolated, and we were also backwards that time. That was like 1981. I wanted to go to Beijing and Shanghai for my college. I finally chose Shanghai, Fudan, because I thought, I'm a southerner, and I heard that if you go to Beijing, you have to eat lots of bread instead of rice. So that was very shallow that time. So I said, okay, I go to Shanghai, and it's an international commerce city, and a lot more foreign exchange and commerce there. So I thought it'd be good for me. So when I was 17, I passed the exam, and you have to choose 5 universities before you took your exam. So
so you went to university in 1981.
Yes, that for 4 years. So it's 81 to 85.
So you're a few years older than me then, at the age of 17, right?
Yes. I actually, I feel very young, but I think I'm older, than I look, because people say you're so energized person. And because I'm happy, I'm a fundamentally born happy person, an individual,
Right. I went to college in 85, so you're 4 years senior than me.
Yes. And China that time was, I don't know where you were that time, but China that time was going through economical reform, opening up, and I call that 80s was like before June 4th, Tiananmen. 80s was China's cultural renaissance. I remember my best time in college.
文化
rebellings.
文化復興啊，文藝復興 Renaissance is 文
復興，對，
文藝復興時代。So that was the early 80s. Yes.
Yes.
To answer your question, I was in the States from 85. I was in Minnesota, so just want to mix up.
You studied college in the U.S.
I went to U of Minnesota at that time, Minneapolis. Yeah, Minnesota.
That's cool. I had no idea. And like later, I would end up being in the U.S. I wanted to change to China.
81, you went to Fudan Dashi to study law. Did you finish your whole law degree back then?
Yes, well, that once you go to school, you're supposed to finish because it was, state university. And my goal, my dream was to build a rule of law society. Because after Mao died in 1976, I was 12 years old. And I start to ask questions like what happened. Because I was just totally indoctrinated child that did not know the truth. I saw that he was like a God. Yes. And when he died, I started to question. And then later, I actually, right before I went to college or something, the party come out to say Mao was human. He made a terrible mistake. 10 years Cultural Revolution was a man-made mistake. And economy was totally collapsed and people were starving. So I said, why rely on man to rule a country of so many people, over 1 billion people? We should have a system, a rule of law. And so everybody gets equal protection. So I wanted to study law and desperate to say, maybe I will serve my country after I graduate and change China, my motherland, for better. That's why I went to Shanghai to study law.
Okay. But even now in China, if you are indicted, 即係俾人告咧, well, the government would win the case 99.999% of the time.
Well,
right?
I mean, I realized that too after I went to law school that it is a one-party control country. When you have one-party control, they mean they control everything. There's no separation of powers, and there is no judicial independence. So you have the CCP controls the court, prosecutors, house, law enforcement, all the city and state leaders are all appointed, not elected. People don't have a right to vote. That's why whenever you have some kind of SARS or virus or something, people tended to just, local leader tended to immediately cover up, because if they don't do a good job locally, they might lose their job. So they all want to make their only report good news, no bad news. It's a terrible
Good news,
system.
And no news is good news inside China, right?
Yes,
so
and the CCTV is all good news.
Just like Hong Kong now, they shut down the Apple Daily, as I told you a few days ago, Stand News, and also Citizen News. There's no more democratic voice in Hong Kong. Very sad. But go back to your old country, which is China. You decide to leave because after university, right? You finish, I guess, in 85 then?
Yes, when I graduated in 85, we were the first graduation class from law school. And the university actually was in desperate need of more teachers. So I got offered one of the 5 positions from the same class to stay to teach as a faculty member of the university law school. And I did not want to go back to Sichuan. I liked Shanghai. Was more foreigners there, more exchange, more commerce. Yes, internationally. So I decided to stay in Shanghai, took the job offer. And that's when I really got hit hard by the reality. Once I become a faculty member working for law school and subject to the CCP committee. Say CCP committee is at every department, even today. So you have your own, it's like my old neighborhood block committee. Everybody has to be PC. And for law school, especially because you are the mouth and the throat, we call them literally mouth and throat of the party. It's like that's the propaganda we call the Xinhua News Agency. So we had to join the party. We had to do political studies, and I really did not have academic freedom. I also did not have a personal freedom. They constantly tell me as a young professional working there to what to do with my personal spare time by my committee boss. Within first year, I just thought this is totally different from what I wanted to do in China. It's not even talking about transform China to a rule of law society. I could not even have a freedom for myself, and have the free speech, freedom of thought, and freedom. Of course, we don't have freedom of press. So everything is just still like the old years, continuation of the old years of Mao. I thought, hey, maybe I should look for options. And when I was a college student, I met a foreign student from United States. He told me about America and about the Declaration of Independence, what kind of system they have here, and the individual rights. And I thought, oh, maybe I should just try to leave to study a graduate school in US. That was the only way I could think of to leave China, is through applying for graduate school in the US. But the problem, though, I had to get a permission to quit my job, to leave my job, to go get a passport. So that's when I decided I must change my strategy. Instead of fighting with my boss in a Communist Party committee,
right.
I need to do whatever I needed to do in order to get the permission to leave.
So that was in 86 then, right? After 1 year of working.
That was, yeah. And from 85, 86, 87, I was working hard to try to say, how do I leave China for America? And it was a long struggle. It was long years to make that happen. But once I was committed to flee China legally, and get a permission to apply for passport, I just had to, watch my behaviors, watch my speeches, and I had to get my party boss permission to say, okay, you can leave if you promise to come back and sign this agreement. So I had to sign a piece of paper to say, I will come here to get my graduate degree on my own time, but I promise to go back to serve my country, and or I will suffer the consequences. That's the papers they wanted me to sign.
Okay, so you left and you arrived America. What year was that? And what were you doing over the last 20, 30 years? Maybe we'll use 5 minutes to summarize, and then we want to go back into Mao. And if we can talk a little bit about the current regime of China and also Hong Kong, that would be good. But give us in summary over the next 4 or 5 minutes or so how your life progressed over the last few decades in the US, please. Yeah.
So I finally arrived in the US, Austin, Texas airport, 1981, May 11th. That was my happiest day actually so far in my life. And I had nothing to start with. I could not speak even fluent English to go to
87. 87, right?
88. 88, yes.
Yeah.
And 88, so that's like 3 years after I got a faculty job in Fudan University. And I went to graduate school in University of Texas at Austin, and to study a master's degree in School of Social Work. Okay. And I did not even know what that degree was, but that was the only school I could get in with my sponsor's help. So once I met my husband the first night when I arrived at America, that was some destiny. So we got we dated 18 months, got married, and right after I graduated, my first child was born in 1990, and then we were in Wyoming. So I was a home mom to take care of my 2 babies. Later, we added another boy. I was working part-time. And then my husband got the opportunity to work for Hughes Aircraft. So it's kind of very interesting. The Hughes Aircraft had a contract with the Hong Kong Airport Authority. So quickly after he got a job with Hughes Aircraft in Colorado, and then they sent us to Hong Kong for 2 years. That's why I care deeply about Hong Kong, because we were there for between the 1996 to 98. We witnessed the turnover to China at that time. And
Okay.
then we come back to United States. So I was not political the whole time. I'm trying to learn English and support family, get a job, bought a house, got laid off, start my own business, working from home. And so for first 20 years in the US, I really was not totally awake. I had to study the history. I had to know what happened to us in China. So when I totally woke up, get rid of my indoctrination, the lies when I lived in China, it was 20 years later, 2008. I feel that the day I woke up.
Political awakening. 政治
Oh, it
覺
was 20 years awakening. That's why people said, hey, I have been educated once, but it took me lifetime to get rid of it.
我想問下你咧，你喺香港I say it in Cantonese. You were living in Hong Kong from 96 to 98, right? 96到98,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which part of Hong Kong did you live in?
We lived in the Gold Coast, in New Territories.
Oh, 黃金海
Yes. That's where my husband took a little company boat to go to work to build a new airport. They had a new airport contract. So we flew in 1996 to the old airport. By the time we left Hong Kong, we flew out of a brand new airport. That was a very interesting and exciting experience. We both loved Hong Kong. Our kids went to international schools as little boys, and I got an international trading management job with 2 Hong Kong companies. I learned a lot, and we really liked the Hong Kong, the free enterprise system, free market, and flat taxes, and the government was not so much regulation. So people were all having their own business, and they were industrial people. It just for me, it's so sad to see what is happening today in Hong Kong.
Okay, now, of course, under the one country, two systems framework, it's supposed to last until 2047, and it's shortchanged by more than 25 years. Actually, we have the so-called Quốc安法, the national security law that was passed in 2020, and it became effective on June 30th, 11 p.m. And since then, over the last year and a half, a lot of pro-democracy activists, professionals, they were arrested, including the founder of Apple Daily, Jimmy Lai, and some of the well-known activists, and those who are not well-known as well. And more than 800 people, I think, are still detained inside Hong Kong, waiting to be on trial. Compared to Tiananmen, you have the 20 most wanted lists. You have Wang Dan, you have Yi Hai-hei, Zhao Fengshuo, right? So just 20. Hong Kong is more than surreal. We have more than 100 people that's alleged to be in violation of the national security law. And then the whole Hong Kong system got dismantled in a very short period of time. And just recently, the CEO of the American Chamber of Commerce, Tara Joseph, commented and say, Hong Kong as a financial center is done. Of course, you and I, we come from different background. I was born in Hong Kong. You were born in China. You spend most of your time in the US, and now you're running for Congress. And for those people listening to our program, they know of the Republican Party. Most people, they still think about 2 years ago when Hong Kong was fighting for its freedoms, and back then when President Trump and Secretary Pompeo represent one school of thought that if Hong Kong could remain intact, it's good for China. And then all these different sanctions to the Hong Kong and China officials happen because from the U.S. side they say they are destroying Hong Kong's freedoms, right? So there was some sanction going on. I think 8 or 9 officials up till now. The sanction is not lifted. You are running for the House of Representatives as from the Republican side, how do you see the Hong Kong situation under President Xi Jinping right now? Because, well, definitely, I can tell you what I think. Why I'm here right now doing this program. I set up Action World and Action Life 1 month before the national security law was enacted, and most Hong Kongers, they don't study as much like the Cultural Revolution and whatnot, but they want the one country, two systems, the Deng Xiaoping model, to go on until 2047. But now, to a lot of people, this is all gone. How can, if you win the seat, let's say, how can you represent the voice for Hong Kong people living in the U.S. and also, fighting for freedom, democracy, and all that? Because I met you back in, I think, 2016 at a democracy conference. But to tie everything together, what is your view on Hong Kong now? And please, elaborate your thoughts.
Well, I am a grassroots liberty candidate, and everything I do, everything I see, is based on my principles, what I believe in. I believe in individual liberty. I believe in people's choices, and I'm anti-communism. So national security law, I'm totally against that, imposed to Hong Kong without, any consideration to their promise, one country, two systems. And the promise is a promise, but when they throw their promise away, it seems like there are no really serious worldwide consequences, and people continue to do business with China because the huge market, and the Chinese government use that also as leverage to lure people in to use the business deals. So you see lots of American companies are silenced, not talk about Hong Kong, not talk about the cultural genocide, not talk about human rights abuses, by CCP, and not even talk about they have infiltrated into Western democracy countries, United States, Europe, Australia, and Canada for a decade, longer than a decade. So that's why you see this rise of totalitarianism in the Western countries. So I always promise people, you don't have to agree with me on all the policies, but you can trust me to tell you the truth. I cannot lie. I stay true to myself. I advocate for free Hong Kong, free Tibet, and free China. We have to separate Chinese people from the CCP. There are 90 million CCP members, but there are 1.4 billion Chinese people that do not have a free speech, free press. And that's why lots of them don't know the truth. So we have to share the truth, and we have to condemn all the human rights abuses by the Chinese government, and we will support Hong Kong people and also other Chinese people like in Taiwan, and they're facing threats almost every day too. So that, I read in Chinese. Chinese language is my native mother tongue language. So I have an advantage to go to U.S. government and to share my opinions and the truth with people inside of the U.S. government. Some of them, might not know what's really going on, what kind of system China has, and Hong Kong is totally lost now because they always use national security law, not just arrest people in Hong Kong. They can arrest people like me who go to Hong Kong and speak up to say, hey, you are a threat to our national security law. Then Chinese people don't have a protest rights because they lock you up. You are a threat to national security law. So it's becoming basically, what is the difference between the National Security Bureau and the KGB in Russia? It's the same thing. It's do not allow people to speak freely, express freely, and to protest peacefully. So that's where I stand. I'm for freedom, I'm for human rights and the democracy and for the common people, not just representing, of course, the Chinese people in Hong Kong, in China. I'm going to be represent the people of New Hampshire to guarantee their individual rights and freedom and to choose, because you see that is also going on in the US, that the federal policies are pushing more mandates and, on people, and they are become more authoritarian. They throw away people's constitutional rights during the pandemic. But you cannot just cancel people's rights because excuse of public health. You let people decide once you provide all the information there. But if you have a censorship, then how do the common people know the truth? It's like what is the origin of COVID-19? We're not even asking that kind of questions. Make China to answer. Where is your patient zero? This pandemic virus have killed so many people, but we're not doing an investigation, dig out the truth. I remember when like 2020, even 2021, if you talk about Wuhan lab leak virus, they cancel you. They call you spreading misinformation. And now it's a little bit, different now. More truth is coming out. So I think truth shall set people free.
Right. And also, I know I didn't ask before, but for those, this will not be the first interview because you are running for the House of Representatives. And I'd like to bring you on to my show later on. And can you tell us a little bit about the timeline, what you need to achieve within the next few months, and when you are running for primary within your party, right? The Republican Party.
Right.
So what steps do you need to take in order to, move forward? We don't know the time frame, and tell us, what would be your typical day and month, and how we can help for those who care about, like your campaign, and also if they live in your state or know people who live in the state of New Hampshire. Tell us what's like.
That when I filed as an official candidate with the Federal Election Commission called the FEC, I saw there are 5 Republican men in the primary with me. The primary is September 13th of this year. That's when the Republican party members will decide who is going to be nominated by their party to go and compete with the Democrat incumbent Congresswoman. So after September 13th, if I win, I will go on to general election, which is held on November 8th. So our primary is kind of late. It's not very helpful to new challengers like me. But I'm confident with my messages, and of course I'm going to work very hard to get my messages out to raise money. Any green card holders and American citizens in this country can donate to my campaign. Our opponent in Democrat Party has lots of money, $1.7 million right now, more money than any other Republican candidates. But I am running a grassroots national campaign. So I'm asking people who know somebody has a green card or is a U.S. citizen to donate to my campaign. On my website, the donation campaign will work soon on my website. And also just spread my video messages. I am doing this to keep America as a free country. We all know all the refugees like yourself and some other refugees and immigrants who come to this country because they see America as a shining city on a hill for freedom, democracy, rule of law, and prosperity. But we are risking losing all of that. The radical left, Marxist people who progressives, their policies are very detrimental to people's prosperity, American dream, and the parental rights and control of education. So I have, lived in China for 24 years, I know what it means to not to have freedom, to not have individual rights, and to live in poverty. So I am hoping that the people who can identify with me on those messages and they can support me. So I'm going to be doing lots of interviews and going across the country, across the state. My calendar is filling up very fast, and I know that what it means to me and to my family to put myself out there, that to run. But I have to speak up the truth. I have to educate Americans who just don't understand the purpose of communism.
So some key dates. The primary within the Republican Party is September when?
13th.
September 13th. And what are the other key dates?
It's November 8th.
Which is what is November 8th?
November 8th is general election day. That's Americans' election day.
For the House of Representatives.
Yeah, for all the people who, like every 2 years, like there's election day at the national level. And this is called the middle term elections. That means, all the Congress people will be re-elected. And some states were also running to re-electing their governors and state representatives and state senators. So this is a big election day. It's always November, every other 2 years.
Okay, so you have to win the primary for the Republican on September 13th, right? This is important to you. Let me just put it down. Primary, September 13th, 2022. That means you got around 9 months to work on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. You have to so-called win the primary, defeat the other 5 men inside the Republican Party, right?
Right.
Yeah. To represent the Republican and contest with the Democrats for the general election on November 8th.
Yes, the Democrat incumbent has been there for 10 years. So she has lots of support, name recognition, lots of money. But the people are fed up with the Democrats Party's policies. And what they're pushing in DC today is just very shameful. They lost in touch and common sense with American voters. So I'm hoping that, there will be a Republican victories in lots of states.
How many Asian votes are there? How many registered voters are there in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, we have 1.3 million people, and the voters are basically the largest voters bloc is 35% of the independents, like not affiliated with party. Asian American Coalition, the organization I founded, we just had a meeting talk about, hey, we actually are the second largest minority group in our state, 3%. And the Hispanic is 4%. And so if you want to win the campaign, then you need to have common sense policies, very powerful messages to connect with people of New Hampshire and who will, likely to decide who they want to represent them in the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'm hoping that I am a very non-traditional candidate. I think this might be the first time a mainland Chinese immigrant woman is running actually for the congressional seat in the state. And so I'm hoping that people will give me a chance to get to know me.
Let me get the facts and let me put it up. New Hampshire, I'm just reading from Google, got 1.36 million people according to the 2019 census. And did you say 30% are registered voters?
Over 30% are independent.
I want to know how many people registered as a voter.
I don't know the percentage. I will look that up. What is the percentage people actually register to vote? But their participation rate is pretty high in this state.
Okay. Because now I just want to put this up. New Hampshire, 1.36 million people. So if we know the number of registered voters, and it's important because you want to target all the registered voters, and I'm trying to do some very simple data mining here to help you in whatever shape or form.
Yeah, that should be easy to find out because we also have the party record too, like how many. They have all that data. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the data actually.
Let me say something in Cantonese. 咁就Lily Tang Williams， 佢本身大陸出世，咁就喺復旦大學讀完法律系，咁就去咗美國，咁就曾經喺香港96至98年嘅時候咧，喺香港住過，咁大部分時間咧都喺美國啦。咁佢就係想 contest for House of Representative 喺佢哋嗰個州份叫 New Hampshire， 1.36個 million。130萬嘅人口，咁佢需要做到嘅嘢咧，個動作咧就係咧，佢哋自己喺共和黨裏邊嘅個 primary 9月13號之前，即係而家佢有9個月咧，去同佢個黨裏邊嘅人咧去爭出線啦。咁贏咗爭出線之後咧，就係11月8號就係個 general election。咁所以咧，我就想請大家。如果係住喺呢一個 New Hampshire 個州份嗰度嘅，聽到我哋電台我哋個 multimedia channel Action Life Action World 嘅朋友咧關注啦。咁如果你可以有啲乜嘢可以幫到佢嗰個 campaign， 其實係講緊9個月咧。咁就可以揾佢嘅。Is there an email that people can contact you if they want to help you in some shape or form? Do you have an email there?
There is the contact information on my website.
Okay, so Lily Tang Williams.
Yeah, there is. Then we will get the people who write to us.
Yeah. So it's the website down here.
Yes, lilytangwilliams.com. There's a contact. Yes, there's a form.
Yeah. Yes, that would be good because you need some vetting process to know whether people are for real. I mean,
and another one is my public page, Lily for Congress Facebook page. I have almost 22,000 people liked it. You can follow me there and share my messages and also write to me from the public page, Lily for Congress page.
Number 4 for Congress.
Yes, Lily for Congress page. I just changed that from Lily for Liberty, but I have lots of followers there. I just changed the name and put my campaign logo there. So we're gonna go full speed.
Like this, Lily for Congress?
Yes, did you find it?
No, I'm just putting it up. Lily for Congress.
The word is right, Lily for Congress. Yes, Facebook. Yes.
Okay, that's good. Well, I want to see definitely people running for offices, whether in Hong Kong, in US or Canada, if they speak the truth. It's important to have good people representing the people living in that place, right? And unfortunately, in Hong Kong, we don't really have a democratic election of sorts anymore. It's basically it's a rigged election, as I mentioned to you a few days ago, and most of the pro-democracy legislators they're locked up in jail right now.
Talk about attack to democracy. Who is a real threat? I feel so sad because the way mainland Chinese always see Hong Kong as the hope for mainland Chinese to escape to freedom. Like Mr. Lai, Jimmy Lai did as a boy who fled, communist China for Hong Kong and built a huge empire, and the huge company and the famous Apple Daily. But now he's locked up, and lots of democracy leaders, even elected people, were locked up. We need people who love freedom and democracy in the world to come out to condemn China on that and to support people of Hong Kong. And we always stand with the freedom, and we cannot stand with the tyranny.
Yes, and it's important to have pro-democracy voice in the democratic country. But the Five Eyes countries definitely, I guess the last point I want to make before we run out of time, it's there's a lot of infiltration in the Five Eyes countries, US, UK, Canada, Australia too, from the totalitarian regime. So how do we know that your campaign is not being infiltrated by those who want to destroy your campaign?
Well, we just have to have a smart sense, and there will be infiltrations. And I already got lots of trolls on my Twitter, Lily for Liberty Twitter account, and my Facebook, and even my YouTube. I had somebody come attacking me on my YouTube videos. That's okay. We all have to manage the fear. We all have to manage to deal with the infiltration. But if I have more and more trolls, and I think that's a badge of honor for me, that means I'm poking some people's nerves.
Yeah.
But there's nothing I'm afraid of. I have truth on my side.
Yeah. The 5 cents Mo attacking your page, are you saying?
Yeah, 5 cents army. Yes.
5 cents army. Yeah.
Yes. 5毛.
5毛. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, this is not a one-off interview, and we will be following your campaign very closely. And I'm moving around a lot in the next few months, leading to the first half of the finish line of the so-called one country, two systems, even though it is gone already. But my concentration is on those who are detained under the NSL. So that's why I've been running around. And
yeah, we should call for their release. But thank you for having me, and the best luck to you in Canada, and the best luck to you. Good wishes when you travel around, the states.
Yeah, I will spend a little bit of time in Canada, but more so in the US moving forward, and the UK, and likely in Australia in 2 months' time. Yeah.
Well, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Lily, and we will be in touch. And for those who watch our program live, please support our production through patreon.com/@Chin, so we could move forward and keep going. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Have a good day.